Hi everyone, welcome to my oil and coal wax beginners series. This is the third video in the series, so if you haven't watched paper preparation, please watch that first. This video will show you how to mix oil and coal wax, 2 ways of starting your painting, and how to apply the first layers. So without further ado, let's start. In this video, I'm going to show you how to apply your first layer of oil and coal wax. So I'll show you how to mix the paint and we will do the first application. So I've set up my table. I've got some baking paper I've laid out and just put a bit of tape on so it doesn't move around. And this is what I will be using as my palette. So of course we'll need some cold wax. So I have some in my tin here. I just dump that in the middle of my palette, put that to one side, and we'll need paint. So today I'm just going to use the Pebeo paint. This is cadmium yellow, which is semi-transparent. I do like to use a lovely bright colour as my very first layer. You may not end up seeing much of it at the end of the day, but you should get little amounts peeping through, which adds a level of excitement to the paint. So whatever paint you have out, you've basically got to estimate the equivalent in cold wax. So I've got like that, and that is what you mix. And I use my palette knife, RGM 81 palette knife, to mix. And what I do is I hold it actually upside down to do the mixing. It gives you a lot more pressure, and I just find it easier and quicker. And the paint when I started was quite glossy. If I can, I'll just show you another little bit there. That is quite shiny. But when you mix it with the cold wax, it goes matte. So that's something to look for. Okay, now to apply the first layer, I like to use a squeegee. So this is the Meister bowl scraper. There are other tools that you can use, like catalyst wedges, which is a pottery tool, but this is my preferred tool for applying cold wax. So I've got my paper pre-prepared with tape, and I might just put a little bit of tape to hold it on the board. Grab some tape. So make sure you can see it. Right. So what I do is I collect paint like that, and then I start at the edge of the tape. I do a 45-degree angle to the paper, and then it should come off smoothly in a lovely thin layer. More. And this is really useful to practice because this is one of the key things you'll be doing in oil and cold wax. Now if you don't hold it 45 degrees, say you hold it 90 degrees, that's what happens. It takes the paint off, which sometimes you won't want to actually do that. So have a play around with the handling of the squeegee. And we just want a lovely thin layer. Okay, that's the first layer done. So in this video, I just wanted to show you another way of starting off your oil and cold wax painting. Some artists like to activate the substrate rather than starting with a white substrate. So you can use pencils, or I've got a Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2 here. So you can literally scribble, do any marks you like, just to activate the canvas. And then I've got a bit of charcoal here as well, so I'm just going to do a few lines. But you can use graphite pencils, whatever you happen to have, lying around. So that is a way of starting off your painting. And then over the top of that, it's quite good if you've got a transparent colour. This one is semi-transparent according to the label. It's the cadmium yellow deep of the Pebeo range, and it's got a half and half square which shows it's semi-transparent. So it's quite interesting. So you can still see some of the marks, or you can still see all of the marks coming through. We'll be doing quite a few layers, so a lot of this will disappear, but it is another way of adding some interest to your painting later on. And when you're applying the cold wax, don't just go in one direction like that, go the other way, go diagonally. So just practice using it at 45 degrees. Also, another little tip, it's very tempting to scrape off all your paint with your palette knife. If you do that, you have to be really careful not to damage the edge of your squeegee. And if you just go like that all the time, you're likely to. So I just try and go very carefully along the edge and not along the actual sort of blade of the equipment of the squeegee. So just be really careful about that. And then the rest of the paint can be wiped off with a kitchen towel. Or the other thing you could do is reserve one of your pieces of paper as a wipe off piece of paper, and literally, I'll just move this one out of the way. I'll just put that back. Literally, whatever you've got on your squeegee or your tools, just wipe it off. And just keep doing that throughout the day, so then you're not wasting the cold wax. And quite often people find their kind of waste paper can often be the most interesting because they haven't been thinking about it. So it's sort of just trying to click into the creative side of your brain and get out of the analytical side of your brain that tends to overthink things when you're doing abstract work. Okay. In this video, I'm going to show you how to apply the second layer of oil and cold wax. I've put out some paint. It's Steel Blue by Pebeo, and it's semi-transparent as well. So, and then I've been mixing the paint with the equivalent amount of wax, cold wax. So as you can see, I've got a bit of paint left on my palette knife. So I'm just going to take my scrap piece and I'm going to push that. Sorry, you can't see that, but I'm just applying that to the paper so that I don't waste too much material. And as I'm scraping it over, it's turning it green, as you'd expect, because it's yellow underneath. Right, I'll just clean off the remains of the dregs of the paint. So I'm going to use my squeegee again. This is the 6-inch one. Just pick up some paint along the edge. Start just on the tape and then do a nice pull at 45 degrees to the paper. I'm going to wipe off that paint onto my scrap piece again, and I'll get some more paint, and then I'm going to pull from the other direction. And I'll wipe the squeegee off again. And then I'll get some more paint and we'll go from this direction. Now I've still got paint there, I'm going to go from that direction. Sorry, my scrap sheet is off camera, but I just haven't got enough room to show you my palette, the piece I'm working on, and the scrap piece. But intermittently I'll try and show you what the scrap piece looks like. Now I'm going to try some other directions. I keep wiping off or cleaning off this because I don't want the you know, you often pick up like a little tiny bit of yellow, the colour underneath, and I just don't want it to mix like mud. So I'm just keeping it relatively clean. And I'm quite happy to leave some of these lovely blends. So I'm not going to completely cover this in blue because I just think it adds, you know, it's already becoming an interesting surface. So that's a second layer for the piece that was just plain yellow underneath. And then we'll take the other piece we started, which has got the interesting marks. So again, using the blue, just picking it up, maybe a little bit more. Starting on the tape, just on the tape, do a nice pull, 45 degrees, a nice thin layer. That hasn't got picked up too much yellow, so I will go the other way as well. Now I'll clean it off. I do like, with the blue and yellow, the subtle sort of green effects that you get where they do blend. Some more. Now this is pretty much covered over the marks underneath, but we will be excavating back into the under layers later on. I just need to get that little chunk of whatever it is out. So it could be that some of those marks are revealed later on. There we are. That's number 2. So in this video we will attempt the third layer for our oil and coal wax paintings. So I put out some white Hebio paint, which is titanium white, which has a black square, so it's completely opaque. So it's on my palette. I've got scraped up the coal wax, and we'll do the transformation from shiny paint to matte paint. Now with this layer I'm probably just going to do some patches of colour rather than over the whole painting. So I'm going to use my smaller squeegee for this one, the 4-inch one. So again, I'll just pick up a little paint and I like to go start again just on the tape and do a first pass, go in the other direction. Now I'll need to clean that off, so I'll clean that off on my scrap paper here. Clean it off there. And just show you some other things you might want to try with the squeegee is you can do the 45 degrees, then you can start doing some, you know, wiggles and start thinking about some texture. I do like going diagonally as well. Those beautiful effects. So I think that's enough on that. I'll grab the other one. Put that on up. And again, I'm just going to do part of this one. Wipe the squeegee off. Clean it completely. And then maybe do that way. And that's probably enough for me. And I'll just wipe the squeegee off again. And that's my third layer.